and we're going to start to talk about again sex in the Broadway musical and how it was portrayed. And you know, what's kind of funny about all of this is that truly, things that are considered pretty PG now sometimes weren't considered so PG at the time. And, we'll kind of walk through some of that and see what it looks like. But I'm going to go back way back, 1953. Now, you might think this was just kind of basic stuff, but in its day, Pajama Game was considered very naughty. Think of the title, for goodness sakes, and what the innuendos are to that. But it's the basis of a love story that was mixed into a labor dispute. And what's very interesting is how many careers this particular musical actually began. It launched Bob Fosse, who was supervised by Jerome Robbins because the producers were a little worried to give Fosse full charge at such a young age, having never done a musical before, might be risky. Um, it was the first musical that ever opened over the summer, and you might go, "Well, what's the big deal about that?" Well, it opened in May, and there had only been one other musical that focused on labor disputes as a part of its theme, and that was a musical called "The Cradle Will Rock" that the FBI basically shut down because they were afraid it would cause riots in the streets during the Depression. But Hal Prince, who was the producer of this, and they thought, well, if we open it in May and it's a flop, everyone will be gone over the summer and no one will remember it when it comes back. And if it's a big hit, everyone will be talking about it the entire summer and we'll be selling tickets like crazy. Well, Pajama Game, even at the end, there's they all come out in different pajamas and everything. And there's the scene where there's the lead couple says, two can sleep as cheap as one. One can wear the tops and the other the bottoms. Well, that was pretty racy for 1953. But it was revived about 10, 12 years ago with Harry Connick Jr. and Kelly O'Hara. And it was just one charismatic.
What a woman, I'll tell you. Sit down. There once was a man who loved a woman. She was the one who slew the dragon for. They say that nobody ever loved as much as he. But me, hey, I love you more.
There once was a woman who loved a man. He was the one that she took poison for. They say that nobody ever loved as much as she. Oh, but me, I love you more. My love's meteoric, it's merely historic. A whirlwind, a cyclone on wheels. It rocks my whole solar plexus. It's bigger than Texas. I just can't tell you how it feels.
There was a man.
There was a woman who loved a man.
She was the one who slew the dragon for.
They say
that nobody ever loved as much as he. But me, I love you more. But me, I love you more.
Stop 3 times and whisper no. That
secluded place, place where no one knows your face. A glass of wine, fast embraces call. Oh, you see your silhouettes and all you hear are castanets. You never know how late it gets, not at. Oh, hey.
Now, Pajama Game also had another famous number called Steam Heat, where Fosse's projecting his choreographic style with the black bowler hats and the black leotards and so forth. Pajama Game was considered really kind of sexy in its day, and that led to the next pairing of the same team. Hal Prince Hal Prince producing this musical, Gwen Verdon being cast in a major big breakout leading role. She did not think this was appropriate for her. She thought she was too old. She thought she wasn't sexy enough. She didn't think she had a great singing voice. And it wasn't until she realized it was going to be a comic sexy siren that she realized what the potential for the role was. Now, this was where she meets Bob Fosse. And what's interesting about this is they finished each other's creative sentences. They never really had met before. And when she walked in, she thought she was auditioning for him, not aware fully that she had the role. But what it really was she was auditioning him to make sure she could work with him because the producers wanted her and they didn't need to necessarily have him. So it was just kind of a great melding, and we all know the combustion that followed. There's two great sexy songs from Damn Yankees, and this is one you may not be as familiar with, but it certainly positions the faithful to the Broadway show. And it also cast Ray Walston and Gwen Verdon, both who were the original portrayers, very unusual at the time. And it's hard to believe they didn't try to cast Marilyn Monroe or something in the part of Lola. But this, of course, is the very famous Whatever Lola Wants, Lola Gets. Maybe the most famous number Gwen Verdon ever created. In addition, when she met Fosse, he walked her through his ideas for this song. And as they were doing it together, she added her own touches to it, like the place where she scratches her leg. That was something she added in. And when she realized it was a striptease, she really knew how to put the fun into the song. When they realized it, and they had a picture of Gwen Verdon standing there in, that outfit, and suddenly the men wanted to buy tickets to see the baseball musical, and it became a big success. Jerry Ross, who was the composer working with Richard Adler, the lyricist, he died shortly after Damn Yankees was written. He died of an aneurysm, an undisguised, I believe it was an aneurysm. Well, he died at a very young age, and Richard Adler, who lived to be 90, never really found a writing partner that could give him the kind of success that he had with Jerry Ross. I mean, here they had two back-to-back hit musicals, Pajama Game and Damn Yankees, and after that, who knows what they might have done had they been able to continue working together. Well, House of Flowers is not maybe the most well-known of all musicals, but notice again it stars Ray Walston, who was a big deal on Broadway at the time, and it stars Pearl Bailey, written by Truman Capote, and with Harold Arlen music. It was about two warring houses of prostitution in the islands, and the hijinks that come between these two competing brothels. Interesting subject matter for a musical, and what all that meant. And again, sort of an odd musical with fantasy involved and, you know, misguided romances and so forth. There's not much that's remembered of this except that it introduces us to Diane Carroll. And she makes a song very famous here called Sleeping Bee, which Barbara Streisand actually even performed. Now, Candide has an awful lot of sexual nuances to it. Of course, Candide was a Lillian Hellman, Leonard Bernstein musical that was satirical of politics and governments interfering in the lives of people whose lives just really don't matter. And Cunegonde, who was a princess in one country, and she gets during some revolution, all kinds of terrible things happen to her. And these are like everymen kind of people. They resurface over and over and over in new places with new problems, facing the same issues just in new places. But Cunegonde, the lead character, she is now, after she's been raped and murdered allegedly, now is in Paris, and she is shared by the Archbishop of Paris and the chief rabbi of Paris. And her major challenge is she never gets a day off because they have different days of rest. But in any event, it is pure satire. It's Bernstein reaching for opera. The score has truly lasted well beyond the original book. In fact, Lillian Hellman, after writing it, hated it so much, she said she would never allow the original book to be used after her death. However, in the first act, there is an amazing aria, Glitter and Be Gay, that talks about how this poor woman, Cunegonde, is so miserable with her life and the role she has to play as this chief courtesan between the rabbi and the archbishop, that the only thing that comforts her are her jewels. This is from a concert version, Patty Lupone wheeling Kristen Chenoweth on stage. This aria is one of the most difficult pieces of music ever written for a Broadway musical. The piece itself is something like 18 or 19 pages long. It calls for coloratura activity that is just unbelievable. The cadenzas that she has to sing, plus the syncopation, makes the piece extremely difficult. And if you go to see Candide, most people wait for this moment. Now, Candide has had several additional attempts. Stephen Sondheim, Hugh Wheeler, and Hal Prince reworked it in the 1970s. Much to the surprise, after Bernstein's agreement, he really was upset because it was far better than it originally was when it was created. But this particular piece of music, if you go to see Candide, you wait for this, and you know that if it's not right, it ruins the rest of the evening.
My song, You Go. Go.
Glitter and be gay, that's the part I play. Here I am in Paris, forced to bend my soul to a sordid role, victimized by bitter circumstance. of being basely tearful. I'll show my noble stuff by being bright and cheerful. Oh,
Pearls and ruby rings. Ah, how can worldly things take the place of honor lost? Can they compensate for my fallen state, purchased as they were at such an awful cost? Bracelets, lavaliers, can they dry my tears? Can they blind my eyes to shame? Can the brightest brooch shield me from reproach? Can the purest diamond purify my name? And yet, of course, these trinkets are endearing. I'm oh so glad my sapphire is a star. I rather like a 20-carat earring. If I'm not pure, at least my jewels are. Enough, enough. I'll take their diamond necklace and show my noble stuff by being gay and reckless. Observe how bravely I conceal the dreadful, dreadful shame I feel.
You can tell by the audience reaction. I mean, the audiences who know Candide go and they wait for that particular aria. And if it's done as well as Kristen Chenoweth executed it, it's not an easy piece of music at all. And if you're really a coloratura soprano, if you've not sung Glitter and Be Gay, you've not sung anything. Maybe one of Bernstein's most difficult pieces of music ever written. Now, there was another musical written shortly after this. This was going to be Bob Fosse again. And you notice it says Gwen Verdon and Thelma Ritter. It was called New Girl in Town, based upon Anna Christie, the story of a prostitute who wants to change her life. Well, when it was originally being conceived, Marilyn Monroe had just married Arthur Miller. She wanted to generate some serious acting chops, and they really considered her for the role in the musical. One of the concerns they had was that she might not be able to be heard over the orchestra. So once they started into rehearsals, knowing full well they wanted her, she gets offered the movie Bus Stop. And that changes her whole perspective because she's hoping Bus Stop might get her the very cherished Oscar nomination she really always wanted. And it just didn't work out that way. But can you imagine if there had been a Broadway musical with Marilyn Monroe? My goodness, I mean, it would have been phenomenal. West Side Story, of course, although it's about racism and gang violence and intolerance, certainly has a lot of sexual undertones. The fact that Tony and Maria are teenagers, fall instantly in love. The fact that there is the Anita Bernardo story, which is, certainly very sexual in its portrayal, and of course the violence and the everything about West Side Story, which of course at the time when it was new, did not get great reviews. Many people shunned it because they thought the music was atonal, hyperactive, and dissonant. It really was, on the verge of becoming a great masterpiece, but no one really knew it at the time. It was the 1961 movie that changed the way that West Side Story was ultimately perceived. We all await this new Spielberg movie, and of course, the West Side Story that was playing on Broadway when the shutdown occurred was even more obvious in all of that. But here in this song, done in concert, Cynthia Olivo as Anita, she was cast in Moulin Rouge, had the lead. By the way, some of you read the article I sent out about that a few weeks ago. But, the sexuality is there, even among these girls in Singing America.
Puerto Rico, you lovely island, island of tropical breezes. Always the pineapples growing, always the coffee blossoms blowing. Puerto Rico, you ugly island, island of tropic diseases. Always their hurricane blowing, always the population growing, and the money owing, and the babies crying, you're not a baby, and the bullets flying. I like the island Manhattan. I know you do. Smoke on your pipe and put that in. Mira, mami. I like to be in America. Okay, by me in America. Everything free in America. For small fee in America. I like the city of San Juan. I know a boat you can get on. Bye-bye. Hundreds of flowers in full bloom. Hundreds of people in each room. Automobile in America. Chromium steel in America. Wires put in America. Very big deal in America. Bueno, mami, bueno. Carajo. I'll drive a Buick through San Juan. If there's a road you can drive on. I'll give my cousins a free ride. Gracias. How you get all of them inside? In my dreams goes to America. Many hellos in America. Nobody knows in America. Puerto Rico's in America. here's a carrot to turn on.
I'll give them the washing machine.
What have they got there to keep clean?
I
like the shores of America, comforting doors in America, down on the doors in America, wall to wall doors in America.
When I will go back to San Juan.
When you will shut up and get gone.
Everyone there will give big cheer.
Everyone there will have moved here.
Again, the sexual undertones of that are clearly present. And then, of course, the very, very sexual Dance at the Gym, as originally choreographed by Jerome Robbins in the Spanish influence production that Lin-Manuel Miranda actually transferred 2 songs into Spanish. One was A Boy Like That, and the other was I Feel Pretty.
This season, it was my privilege to collaborate with Stephen Sondheim on the Spanish language lyrics for the first nominee for Best Revival of a Musical, West Side Story. In this bilingual production, the story is the same, but this time when the Puerto Ricans rumble, they do it in Espanol. In this number, Maria looks forward to the beginning of her new life in America at a dance at the gym, where she and Tony are first drawn to each other. Here's the company from West Side Story!
I knew something never before was gonna happen. Had to happen, but this is
My
so...
hands are cold. Yours too. So warm.
Yours too.
But of course, they are the same.
It's so much to believe. You're not joking me.
I have not yet learned how to joke that way. I think now I never will.
For here you are, and what was just our world is a star
Well, the Flower Drum Song is another example of there was sexuality in this as well. An interesting song that many people look at today and they go, oh, this is just so inappropriate. The way that women think about themselves. But it may be one of the most interesting songs ever written in terms of talking about the way someone can see themselves. The Flower Drum Song's not seen very much today because, you know, the script is just truly ridiculous. Not well received among Asian Americans because it's very stereotypically created. But this particular song, as done in concert by Lisa Longa, is absolutely one of the best character songs Rodgers and Hammerstein ever wrote.
Last year, I had the good fortune of being invited to play Mei Li in a brand new production of Flower Drum Song, which was staged in Los Angeles. If some of you remember the movie, if you have watched the movie, you might remember the plot. It's about a young Chinese girl named Mei Li, who was brought to the US to be a picture bride for a club owner named Sammy Fong, who was really seeing his star dancer, Linda Lo, who was trying to get married to Wang Ta, who ended up falling in love with Mei Li. But the new production in LA, the whole plot has changed. But one thing has remained, and that is the beautiful music. Here are two songs from Flower Drum Song. I'm a girl, and by me that's only great. I am proud that my silhouette is curvy, that I walk with a sweet and girlish gait, with my hips kinda swivelly and swervy. I adore being dressed in something frilly when my date comes to get me at my place. Out I go with my Joe or John or Billy, like a filly who is ready for the race. I have a brand new hairdo with my eyelashes all in curl. I float as the clouds on air do. I enjoy being a girl.
And Lisa Long, of course, was the original Kim in Miss Saigon. She's done many, many Broadway roles. It was pointed out to me recently that her brother is actually the conductor in that particular concert. Now, Gypsy, of course, was the story of Gypsy Rose Lee growing up and how she became a stripper. And, you know, who was her mother that could have done this to her? And this picture on the right and the picture on the left. The picture on the left was the very favorite number of Jerome Robbins ever that he choreographed. And of course, that Gypsy Rose Lee in the middle, Stephen Sondheim on Gypsy Rose Lee's right shoulder, Arthur Lawrence on Gypsy Rose Lee's left shoulder, and Julie Stein. They all loved this number. You gotta have a gimmick. It may be one of the best numbers in Gypsy, frankly. And this is from a Phil Donahue show in the 1980s, where they were doing a talk show with Stephen Sondheim and Julie Stein.
What is happening on Broadway? Here is our annual look at the state of our theater art. On this program, you will see some wonderful material from packed SRO shows now playing Broadway, including Black and Blue, Grand Hotel, City of Angels. And I want you to know this. If you're going to be a stripper, you got to do more than take your clothes off. And if you've seen Gypsy, you know why. Here to perform a number that knocks them out from Gypsy, Anna McNeely, Jana Robbins, and Barbara Irwin are here to say and sing, you've got to have a gimmick. Welcome them, please.
All the stops out till they call the cops out. Grind your behind till you're banned. But you gotta get a gimmick if you wanna get a hand. You can sacrifice your sack row, working in the back row, but in a dump till you're dead. Kid, you gotta get a gimmick if you wanna get a hand. You can, That's how Velasco was born. So but I do it with a horn. Shake it, they'll never make her rich. Me, but I do it with a switch. special. Tell me that you're special. Everything was special. You're going to just to be me when you're gonna give me. Take a look how different we are. If you wanna make it, oh, why you shake it? If you wanna grind it, wait till you find it. If you wanna bump it with the trumpet. Get yourself a gimme, then you too can be a star.
That again is Jerome Robbins loved that number. And when they were rehearsing Jerome Robbins Broadway, Jerome Robbins was known for being a nasty, horrible creature to work with. And one night he wanted to rehearse that again, and he was coaching it, and he was walking backwards on the stage. And the cast had so little personal feeling for him that they didn't warn him that he was backing up off the stage to fall into the orchestra. Meanwhile, Bye Bye Birdie, you would think, well, that's pretty wholesome entertainment. The first rock musical, so to speak. We all know well the story of a rock and roll singer who's going to give a fan a kiss farewell as a publicity stunt before he goes into the army. You go, Steve, where's the sex stuff in Bye Bye Birdie? However, the character that Sheeta Rivera played originally, Rosie, had a ballet created for her where she invades a Shriners meeting out of great frustration because her love, Albert, just isn't paying attention to her.
Did you know that when the musical Bye Bye Birdie was in rehearsal, the Broadway gossip was that it would never make it? A stiffaroo. Well, that's because it was the first major musical about rock and roll, and everyone was skeptical. But it worked like gangbusters. The show became a big hit of the season and established director-choreographer Gower Champion as a major force in the theater. Tonight, the American Dance Machine presents Gower Champion's The Shriner Ballet. And as a special treat, recreating her original role, we welcome the electrifying Miss Sheeta Rivera. Hold it.
What?
Where are you going?
Where are they going?
No. That's a convention for men.
That's exactly what I'm looking for.
No, wait a minute. You can't go in there.
What do you mean I can't go in there? I can do any manner of wild and trashy things I choose to. This is my night out.
What's your name?
Rose Grand. But you can call me Spanish Rose.
No, wait, whoa.
And so, fellow Shriners, with the power vested in me, I do hereby call this 723rd weekly meeting of the Sweet Apple Shrine to order. And now... Ooh. And now, before the recording secretary reads the minutes of last week's meeting, I would like to bring up a subject that I'm sure is on everyone's mind tonight. As I was saying, gentlemen,
You look at that and you think of the timing that had to take place. And, just think about Cheetah Rivera having to jump off that table and knowing she had to land in that guy's arms and not miss. You talk about daring dance strategies. Boy, that's certainly all in there. You may have not even remembered that the Shriners Ballet was part of Bye Bye Birdie, but it certainly was a great piece of Gower champion choreography. Irma La Douce. Now, French musicals are not well known. But this one about a prostitute and a policeman moved to Broadway. And everybody thought it was absolutely indecent. And quite frankly, if you were to see it today, it's probably PG. But a funny thing happened on the way to the forum. The whole premise of this is like a burlesque evening of entertainment, lowbrow humor, comic antics, courtesans everywhere in ancient Rome about a slave trying to buy his freedom. But it had its own bawdiness to it, and it was really pretty outrageously sexual in a polite way. I mean, you can certainly see by the pictures Zero Mostel and Jack Guilford and, crazy identities and, ogling women and all kinds of things like that. Now, every year in London, they do something called BBC Proms, and it is where they do concert versions of popular musical numbers. And this is a great number from Form. Everybody ought to have a maid, done at the BBC Proms, a number of years ago.
Revenge.
Wait, back up. Here it is first.
Maids like me.
I'm neat. I like maids. They're neat. Something no household should be without. Everybody ought to have a maid. Everybody ought to have a maid. Everybody ought to have a working girl. Everybody ought to have a lurking girl to putter around the house. Everybody ought to have a maid. Everybody ought to have a maid. Everybody ought to have a menial, consistently congenial, and quieter than a mouse. Oh, wouldn't she be delicious, tidying up the dishes, neat as a pin? Oh, wouldn't she be delightful, sweeping out, sleeping in? Everybody ought to have a maid. Everybody ought to have a someone whom you hire when you're short of help, to offer you the sort of help you never get from a spouse. Fluttering up the stairway, fluttering up the windows, cluttering up the bedroom, buttering up the master, puttering all around the house. Oh, wouldn't she be delicious, tidying up the dishes, neat as a pin? Oh, wouldn't she be delightful, sweeping out, sleeping in? Everybody ought to have a maid. Everybody ought to have someone who affectionately your slipper will be winsome as a whippoorwill and graceful as a grouse. Skipping down the hallway, slipping through the parlor, tittering in the pantry, lifting up the bedroom, puttering all around the house. A maid. Everybody ought to have a maid. Everybody ought to have a serving girl, a loyal and swerving girl, who's quieter than a mouse. Oh, think of her at the dustbin, especially when she's just been traipsing about. Oh, wouldn't she be delightful, living in, giving out? Everybody ought to have a maid. Tidily collecting bits of paper and strings, or peeling in her apron strings, beguiling in her blouse. Pattering through the attic, slattering in the cellar, clattering in the kitchen, flattering in the bedroom, puttering all around the Everybody ought to have a maid. Someone who's efficient and reliable, obedient and pliable, and quieter than the mouse. Wouldn't she be so nimble, fiddling with a thimble, making a gown? Wouldn't she be delightful, cleaning up, leaning down? Everybody ought to have a maid. Someone who's as busy as a bumblebee, and even if you grumblebee, as grateful as a grouse. Wriggling in the anteroom, jiggling in the living room, giggling in the dining room, wriggling in the other rooms, puttering all around the house.
Nothing like Sondheim lyrics. In any event, it was also done in a review directed by Washington director Eric Schaefer on Broadway with Carol Burnett, doing the same song with well, you'll see.
Revenge.
Boy. Everybody ought to have a maid. Everybody ought to have a working boy. Everybody ought to have a lurking boy to putter around the house. Get over here.
Everybody ought to have a maid. Everybody ought to have a menial, consistently congenial, and quieter than a mouse.
Oh, wouldn't he be delicious? Tidying up the dishes, neat as a pin.
Oh, wouldn't I be delightful sweeping out?
Sleeping in.
Everybody ought to have a maid.
Everybody ought to have a
Someone
maid.
who you hire when you're short of help.
To offer you the sort of help you never get from a spouse. Fluttering up the stairway,
Shattering in the cellar.
cluttering up the bedroom,
Buttering up the mistress.
puttering all around the house. Oh, think of him at the dustbin.
Especially when I've just been traipsing about.
Oh, wouldn't he be delightful?
Living in.
Giving out.
Everybody ought to have a maid.
Everybody ought to have a
Idly
maid.
collecting bits of paper and strings.
Appealing in his apron strings.
Beguiling in her blouse.
Fluttering through the attic.
Shattering in the cellar.
Clattering in the kitchen.
Flattering in the bedroom. Puttering all around.
The house. You do laundry. The house.
Soften your fabric.
The house. How about the windows? The house.
Where did you see my squeegee?
Get in there.
Well, I hope you all had some fun seeing some of the Broadway musicals that had sex portrayed in a different way. We have lots more to talk about next week. Same subject. It goes on and on and on. I'm just going to look to see any questions. Well, to Susan Strigak, I'm glad you played Tessitura. That's one of my favorites. I'm just looking to see if there's anything anybody needs me to answer. You know, it's interesting. Somebody made a comment about Harry Connick Jr. He's not the greatest actor. He does have some charisma on stage, and he's certainly pleasant to look at. Interestingly enough, his Broadway performances have not really been well received, except that the Pajama Game with Kelly O'Hara, the two of them together had really a magnetic personality, and it was really, being very, very well received. Okay, I don't think anybody had any real problems. Listen, I'll see you all next Friday. Don't forget, tell friends to join us if you want, and we always look forward to that. Take care, everybody, and I'll see you all next week. Bye-bye.